Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to another interesting session of ETC Talks. It is a great honor for me to introduce and welcome our guest speaker for today's ETC Talk. Before we begin, please do note that this session is recorded and questions may be raised after the discussion. Today's guest speaker is the Group Vice President Strategy at Oman Information and Communication Technology Group. Currently, he is leading the strategic planning at the Oman ICT Group and is also responsible for the overall development of the group-wide strategic direction, plans and goals to achieve the group's strategic objectives. He has over 15 years of experience in information and communication technology, where he held various leadership roles and responsibilities, and worked as an educational consultant and a research associate at some national and international universities. Moreover, he worked at the Oman Aviation Group as the Group Chief Technology and Cyber Risks, where he led the digital transformation and innovation, as well as cyber security management program for the aviation companies under the group. Also, he worked as the acting deputy CEO of the Information Technology Authority ITA for the infrastructure and e-services and was the Director General of the Information Security Division at ITA. He worked on many national digital projects in addition to many other national initiatives related to information security and strategies such as e-Oman strategy, national ICT strategy, aviation digital transformation and innovation strategy, aviation cyber security strategy, to name a few. He served in many national and international committees, such as Program Committee of the Intelligent Cloud Computing Conference and other technical program committees in more than 10 highly ranked international conferences. In addition, he served as a professional referee in more than 65 international conferences, journals and awards in the area of information and communication technology. He holds a PhD in computer science from Queen's University in Canada with a grade A, first class distinction, and is a certified ITIL SABSA and ILM Level 5 award in leadership and management. Now, please join me in welcoming Dr. Badr Al-Mandari. Dr. Badr, the floor is yours.
Is my voice clear?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, just to double check. Thank you very much. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وأسعد الله صباحكم بكل خير وسرور. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like first to thank the Educational Technology Center, the ETC, for their kind invitation to give this seminar today, which is going to be about the fourth industrial revolution and the future of jobs. The 4IR, or the fourth industrial revolution, will fundamentally change the way we live, work, and it will definitely change the existing economic models, and will disrupt almost every industry simultaneously, and will definitely affect the future of jobs. In my opinion, it will open a new chapter of human development in a way that we have never ever experienced before, due to the rapid advancements of technologies, emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and other technologies. Perhaps I have few slides at the end of my presentation just to give you a few lists of some of those technologies. I'm sure that you're fully aware about them. And it will, for the first time in the human history, bring together three separate worlds together and fuse them together to the point that the boundaries between those different, used to be different worlds, will be very blurry, and it will be very difficult to distinguish between them. The physical world that we live in, the cyber world, as well as the biological world. And today, I hope that I really shed some light into some of the aspects that I just talked about. It's a very big subject. It's a topic that cannot be covered in 1 hour seminar. I just want to give you the headlines, and I'm sure that you'll find lots of material online if you want to know more about it. Already done. Just sharing, if you don't mind. Okay, there we go. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. So let me just start right away, and let me time myself as well, just to manage the time. Okay. So the agenda of today's seminar, I'll give a very brief introduction into the first three industrial revolution. Then I'll talk a little bit about the 4IR, the fourth industrial revolution, and what are the main characteristics of the 4IR. A little bit the impact of the 4IR, and then the last session will be about the future of jobs according to some of the studies. There is one missing agenda item here. I took it off because of the time, but it's important, and I definitely really encourage everybody to dig deep and do some search about it, which is the applications of some of the technologies that will fuel the 4IR. And I'll talk about them at the end, but due to the time limitation, I will not cover some of the examples, but you will find them online. So let me first start with the first three industrial revolutions that marked and paved the way for the fourth one. The first industrial revolution started in the 18th century with the invention of the steam engine and the use of the steam power to mechanize the production. So what did that mean? The tasks that were done by hundreds of workers manually were now or then mechanized using the steam engine. And the concept of factory was born at that time, where you have some sort of a warehouse, machines that perform certain duties. So the first, if I may call it, born of automation at that time, automation, or the concept of automation, was born at that time with the use of steam engines to mechanize the production. So the source of power in this revolution was the steam power. And the source of power is extremely important in those industrial revolutions, because the source of power in the fourth industrial revolution is something different. And that's what causing a lot of concern for a lot of people, especially at high level across the globe, because for the first time in human history, that source of power could be a threat, according to some experts. I'm not one of them, to be frank with you. I just want to give you a glimpse into what's going on with this discussion. But you will see that in the first three revolutions, the source of power is a support to the humans, which further accelerated or improved the living standard. But in the 4IR, there is a debate about it. So in the first industrial revolution, the source of power is the steam power. The second industrial revolution started in the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century with the discovery of electricity, as well as other inventions, especially in steel production, as well as petrochemicals. And also when Henry Ford succeeded in designing and implementing the first moving assembly line, خط التجميع المتحرك. Why? Because that started the era of mass production, especially in the transport industry. So humans and the mankind were able to produce huge amount or massive amount of quantities in relatively short time, and that boosted the economies of many countries. So the source of power in the second industrial revolution is the power of electricity. The third industrial revolution, it's also called the digital revolution, الثورة الرقمية, started in the 50s of the last century, the 20th century, with the invention of computers. And the mechanical and analog systems, الأجهزة الميكانيكية والتناظرية, were replaced by digital systems, and this started the information age, عصر المعرفة. Some experts say that the real information age started in 2012, the real information age, because most of the world's information, more than 99.999, was at that time and still is stored on digital media. The source of power in this revolution is the computing power, which enabled human to do massive computational computations that were not able to do individually, and help prosper the economies. So in the first three revolutions, all sorts of powers were massive support to the humankind. Now we are at the brink of the fourth industrial revolution. I think it's already started, in my opinion, and because we are already seeing its the main features of it, and there are so many evidence about it. So it started at the beginning of this century, and it builds on the digital revolution. So it's a continuation of the digital revolution, but it is much more inclusive, and the effects of it are much more wider than the digital revolution. Some people call it Industry 4. Some may call it Revolution 3.99. The most common name is the fourth industrial revolution, the most widely recognized name. The name doesn't matter. What matters is what this revolution brings, what are the main characteristics of it, and what are the impacts of this revolution that we need to be aware about and work to make the maximum benefit out of it. So what is the 4IR? This is also an abbreviation, the 4IR, the fourth industrial revolution. It is linked with automation and replacement of workers with machines, so that humans will focus more on supervision and auditing. So whenever you hear the fourth industrial revolution, I will just use the abbreviation, the 4IR. You will always hear about automation and the replacement of workers, which was the case in the digital revolution and even in other revolutions. What's different about this one is that it's going to be more inclusive, more comprehensive, and it will involve almost all processes in the production cycle. So the humans, or the human, let me call it intervention or work, will be limited mainly on supervision and auditing, and even those roles will be challenged. So even the roles of supervision and auditing might be done by machines and artificial intelligence, and that's why there is a big concern worldwide, to be honest, about the future of jobs as a result of the 4IR. Now, throughout my seminar today, I might sound a little bit negative because of the future of jobs, because there will be a lot of job loss as a result of automation, the emergence of new technologies like artificial intelligence, which might be true in some countries, but I do believe that the impact of it will be very positive in Oman. And I will talk about it later. So I may sound a little bit negative, but please don't take that as a negative sign. I'm just trying to give you, an overview about the 4IR and what are the main concerns with it and what are the main benefits of it. The main concerns with the 4IR may not be necessarily the case with Oman. In fact, I believe the 4IR will create more jobs in Oman than it will destroy. And I will talk a little bit about that later. So it will be enabled by the massive advancements in technology, especially in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, high-speed networks, quantum computing, and many other technologies. I'll talk about them at the end of my seminar today, which will change the way we live, work, and interact with each other, another. And as I mentioned in my introduction, it will change the current economic model and disrupt almost every industry simultaneously. So the main difference between the 4IR and the digital revolution, although it was very quick, very fast, it still took almost 70 years to impact almost all industries, and still not all industries are yet digitally transformed. So even after 70 years from the digital revolution or the third industrial revolution, there are still some industries that are not yet fully impacted by the digital revolution. The 4IR, the difference, which is the main difference, it will impact almost all industries at the same time, simultaneously. So that's fast decision making. Reskilling of the workers has to happen very fast in order to survive and cope with this revolution. And I will talk about that later in the session where I talk about the future of jobs. As I mentioned also at the beginning, it will fuse three different worlds together for the first time: the physical, the cyber, and the biological worlds. Sorry, that's a mistake. Worlds. Okay. Why? Because of the use of technologies. So the boundaries between those three different worlds will be very blurry to the point that it will be very difficult to distinguish between them. I will give you an example. Today, for example, in the cyber world, they have been evidence today, they have been evidence, and it's a documented evidence, that a cyber attack can cause a physical damage. So there are some experiments where cyber attack happening in the cyber world, electronic, can cause an explosion, a physical explosion. And there are some experiments on YouTube if you want to look at them. So you can see the fusion, which is getting stronger and stronger with time and with the advancement of technologies between the cyber and the physical world. And there are many examples. I'm just giving you one example here. When it comes to the biological, because of the use of implantable and wearable technologies in the future, and the creation or the birth of what's, the cyborg. I don't know if you've heard this term, the human cyborg, which is half human, half machine. Not in the sense that it is described, but we will also have lots of implantable technologies within our bodies for health reasons, for other reasons. And I'll talk about those also at the end of my seminar. And you can search them out for many practical examples that exist today. There will be also a link between the biological world, our human bodies, with the physical and the cyber worlds. So basically what I'm saying, in the near future, not in the very far future, in the near future, our life will be very similar to some sort of science fiction movies, where machines, especially artificial intelligence, will make the recommendations, will organize our daily activities, will make recommendations, and maybe will make even decisions on our behalf. Autonomous vehicles like self-driving cars or flying cars or vehicles will take us to our preferred locations and will make also decisions on our behalf where to take us. And 3D printing machines will print our food for us. So as I mentioned, our life will be mostly some sort of a science fiction movies. That's the 4IR. So the main technologies that are fueling the 4 industrial revolution, the 4IR, are automation, full automation of the production cycle. We're not talking about limited automation like what's happening now in some of the factories. Full automation to the point that even the design of the products might be done by artificial intelligence. The design of the products up to releasing the product to the market, collecting the customer feedback, updating and enhancing that product whatever kind of product, you name it. Could be cars, could be medicine, it could be furniture. Collecting the feedback and updating and enhancing that product, the full cycle will be done by machine and artificial intelligence. And as I mentioned, the human role will be limited to supervision and auditing, and even that role might be challenged with these technologies like AI, artificial intelligence, and other technologies. Robotics, smart machines, sensors, and IoTs. So and because of the advancement of technologies, those technologies will be so cheap that it will be so easy to embed them with our daily life and our work. And that's why I said at the beginning that it will change the way we work, the way we live, because of the integration of these advanced technologies into our daily lives. They will become so cheap that can be integrated with our lives, and we will be collecting lots of data that will be used to make automated decisions on our behalf in many aspects of our lives. The main difference between the 4IR and other industrial revolution is the source of the power. Because in the 4IR, the source of the power is the ability to think, analyze, reason, and make decisions, not by humans, but by machines and by softwares like artificial intelligence. And so, for the first time in human history, the source of power might threaten the human or the mankind, and might create lots of job losses, which is a big concern worldwide. There will be some job losses here in Oman as well, and I show you a study later. However, as I mentioned, yes, there will be some job losses, but also many new jobs will be created in these areas, like robotics, AI, programming. If we plan well in Oman, if we plan for the 4IR very well, then I believe personally that our country can create more jobs than the jobs that will be lost as a result of these technologies. What are the main features of the 4IR? As I mentioned, the main important one is the source of the power, which is again the ability to think, analyze, reason, and make decisions on behalf of humans through the use of softwares, algorithms, AI algorithms, as well as robots and robotics, which will be fueled also by AIs as well. The second one is the speed and scope of change. It will happen at unprecedented rate compared to the previous industrial revolution. Why? Because the technologies are changing at a very rapid rate, to the point that it will be extremely difficult to catch up. That's why even our governance model needs to be changed. The way we structure our organizations need to change to be able to cope with such change. For example, there is a study at MIT. Remember the steam engine? The steam engine, which marked the first industrial revolution? In this study, they analyzed the efficiency and the performance of the steam engine, and they found that the steam engine took, on average, 75 years to double its performance. So it doubled its performance every 75 years. Also, the spindle اللي هي بالعربي المغزى النسيج أتوقع, which also marked the first industrial revolution, took almost 120 years to spread outside Europe. So compare those technologies, the first industrial revolution technologies, with the current technologies that are considered part of the third, the digital revolution, but will continue at a faster rate in the fourth IR. If we take, for example, the modern phones that we have with us today, the modern smartphones, their processing power is bigger than the processing power of Apollo 11, which is the machine that took humans to the moon in 1969. The internet also, remember the spindle took 120 years to spread across Europe. If we compare that to the internet, which spread across the globe in less than a decade, and the smartphone as well, which took less than 10 years to spread across the globe. So, and also let me give you another example. You know that some of you may remember the music card that we used to buy at stores. You know the music card, the card that you buy for 300, 500 pesos. You open it and you hear some music. The chip in that music card, the processing power of that chip is bigger bigger than the processing power of the machine that took humans to the moon. So what I want to say here, the advancements of technologies will happen. It is already actually happening at a much faster rate, that which requires us to be more flexible, more adaptable to the change of those technologies, because some industries will be fully disrupted and we need to be aware about that. And I might give some examples later. It will disrupt almost every sector at the same time. Take, for example, AI. If you just go and search for artificial intelligence, you will see today that artificial intelligence is embedded, whether we know it or not, in almost every industry. It is being used in many industries to solve so many business problems, and the use of AI will be even much more in the near future with the advancements of technologies. What is the impact of the 4IR? Of course, with any new technology, with any new revolution, comes a higher rate of economic, social, and human development. This is a fact. Any new technology that is introduced, any revolution, industrial revolution, look at the first one, the second one, the digital revolution, and now the 4IR, definitely there will be higher rates of economic, social, and human development. There is a study by McKinsey, it's online, you can search for it. They analyzed the applications of 12 emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, IoTs, big data, and some of these technologies, and they estimated that they could have a potential economic impact between 14 to 33 trillion US dollars by 2025. So these technologies will add to the global economy between 14 to 33 trillion US dollars by 2025. So again, back to my point, higher rate of economic, social, and human development, definitely. And the countries that prepare very well for this industrial revolution are the ones that are going to make the maximum benefit out of it. It will disrupt almost every sector at the same time, but the most important thing, it will change the economic models. And some industries might disappear at all. New industries will emerge as a result of it. Take, for example, the autonomous cars, self-driving cars. It's anticipated because most of the car accidents today are due to human errors, is not because of malfunction in the cars themselves. With the self-driving cars, the car accidents and the human casualties will be so low to a point that we will not need any car insurance in the future. And it is anticipated, for example, that the insurance industry will disappear because of this, unless they change their business model. So, for example, they go into cyber insurance and all of this. So this is what I mean by changing the economic models. Some industries might totally be disrupted. Some industries might disappear as a result of new industries. And we need to be prepared for that. It will influence the entire industrial ecosystem and transform the entire companies into unprecedented new technologies, inventions, processes. It will definitely greatly reduce the production costs. Why? Because most of the production cycle, as I mentioned, will be fully automated. And so, yes, lots of workers will be replaced by machines, but the production will increase because of the use of machines. Companies and factories will be able to produce 24/7. The error rates will be much more less because it will be controlled by machines. And so the products will be, the cost of the products will be much less. It will then result in significant increase in productivity, and the speed of the product development will be much more, and access to market will be much more faster. It will shorten the development time and generalizing the achievements to the world. What do I mean by generalizing achievements? Compare that again to the spindle, which took 120 years to spread across Europe. And compare it with today's achievements. If there is an invention somewhere, maybe the next day we could have it here in Oman. So generalizing the achievements will become much more faster, and the development cycle will be much more shorter. Why? Because of the use of artificial intelligence and machines that work 24/7, as well as they have massive computational power, so they're able to produce much more faster than human. We will definitely have better healthcare because of the use of new technologies in the health sector. For example, artificial intelligence in the health sector. One experiment we have done when I was in ITA with the Ministry of Health is to use AI to diagnose breast cancer here in Oman, which was a big success. The AI was able to diagnose the breast cancer with 96% success rate. This was announced in the news, so you can look it up online. 96 success rate, and with additional experiments, we could have reached 100%. So 100% accuracy rate, and it took only microseconds to give you the results. So a human being might take minutes, they might take weeks because of the number of cases. The more cases you have, the longer it takes to diagnose those cases, compared to the AI, which is able to diagnose a massive number of cases, many cases, thousands, maybe millions of cases in microseconds, with an accuracy rate sometimes even better than humans. I'm just giving you one simple example. There are so many applications. There will be higher competition for talents, which is expected, because the talent and the skill set will be the most critical factor for production more than capital. In the old days, it used to be the capital, how much money you have to be able to create factories and to be able to enhance your production. Today, money is not an issue. It's never an issue. You can crowdsource for money. You can get investments from outside. It's the idea that you have. It's the most valuable one. It's the idea and the skill set. And so there will be a global competition for skill set. Global competition. It is already happening actually today. In some areas, there is a global shortage, like data science, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, there is already 3.5 million shortage of jobs in cybersecurity worldwide. In India alone, there is more than 1 million shortage of cybersecurity jobs in India alone. So today, the competition for skill set and talent is already happening, and it will be even more fierce in the future. It will widen the gap between the educated and highly skilled and experienced people and others. And therefore, it will increase the gap between the rich and the poor, unfortunately, as highly skilled people with abilities to communicate and benefit from modern technologies will become unimaginably rich. Why? Because those low skills and routine jobs will be replaced by machines and artificial intelligence and robotics. And so unskilled or less educated people will find it very difficult to find jobs in the future unless we work now to reskill them, educate them, and make them ready for the type of the jobs that will come and emerge in the future. So the gap between the rich and the poor will be even higher in the future, which will create lots of social issues, lots of security issues to many countries. That's why the 4IR is something that is being discussed at very high level in many countries. In South Korea, for example, they have a council that is led, a 4IR council that is led by the Prime Minister of South Korea. In the US, it's being discussed at higher level. In Germany, for example, there is a big concern because they are worried about the SMEs. You know, the advanced countries like in the US, German, UK, most of the economy is made out of SMEs, not out of big companies. So 70 to 80% of the whole economy is SME. And that's where most of the employment happening, not in big companies, in SMEs, most of the employment. And because of this, I think I have it in one of my slides, also it will affect the SMEs because their services will be replaced by AI and robotics. And that's why there is a big concern, especially in Germany. They discussed this across all levels, because they want to protect their SMEs, which they make up most of their economy. I'm not sure about the percentage. I think it's around 80%, but I might be wrong. You can look it up online, but I'm sure it's a big percentage. So they are worried if those SMEs, the services of those SMEs here, small to medium enterprises, are replaced by machines and robotics, then the whole economy will be disrupted. There will be a lot of job losses because most of the employments, as I mentioned, in those advanced countries, advanced economies, most of the employment actually happens not in the big companies. Most of the employment is happening in the SMEs. And that's what Oman also is working on right now, trying to improve. As I mentioned, there will be a loss of jobs and, of course, increasing the job seekers as a result of the expansion in the use of automation, as I mentioned, artificial intelligence, robots. But self-employment will increase, and there is already an evidence in Europe and in the US that the self-employment and the freelancers are increasing. So there will be, yes, a loss of jobs, but those will turn more into self-employment, will become more of freelancers, especially the skilled ones, offering their services to the companies, and it's a win-win situation for companies as well as for the workers. Why? Because the companies, they don't have to hire from their perspective, of course, and not from the national perspective, but for some of the companies, it's easy for them to contract freelancers, do a particular job, and the contract is done and leave after that contract is done. It's better than employ employees with all the employment rights, the retentions, and all of this. It will change the nature of the work, and there will be an emergence of what's known as the human cloud. So I'm sure you've heard of cloud computing. There is another term that is emerging, which is a human cloud. What is human cloud? It's similar to cloud computing, where you have computing resources. Here you have human resources, freelancers, or companies that are offering professional services to you. So instead of, and this is already happening, by the way, so instead of hiring, especially in non-core business, so let's say that I am a company working in the field of finance, for example, then IT, HR, and all of this, these are non-core services. I have two options. Either I hire people in HR, I mean, employees, IT employees, admin employees, or I outsource this to a company that will provide this service for me. And this is a model that is being adopted widely currently, and it will increase in the future. Why this is a good model? Because I can focus on my core business, let's say financing or investment. I don't have to worry about non-core business, although it's important to my company. And so there will be human clouds which are offering services, especially non-core services, to companies. And we will have to compete not only locally within Oman, but also globally, because now as a company, maybe government I can regulate, I mandate, but as a company, I can get the service from outside if it's a cheap service. Let's say that I want the payroll, for example, which is a function of the HR. So I don't have to hire somebody to do the payroll for me. I can outsource this to a company, either in Oman or outside Oman, depending on the cost, the service, and all of this. So that's the first part of my talk today. A very quick, a very high-level introduction of the 4IR. It's, as I mentioned at the beginning, the topic, it's much more bigger than what I just described, and I hope that you read about it. I'm sure that most of you already know about it, but if you're interested, you can read more about it. You can watch videos. There are so many books also about it, and it is something that we are living today. The second part is the future of jobs, because every time anybody talks about 4IR, then the future of jobs, it's associated with it. Because as I mentioned, the 4IR is linked to the issue of job loss because of the widespread of adoption of new technologies as well as automation. Again, I just want to emphasize again that this may not be the case here in Oman. And I will talk about that at the end, maybe. Unfortunately, I do have some slides, but I did not include them here due to the time. I didn't want to take much of your time. But again, please don't be concerned. Don't take this as a negative thing. Any new technology that might come, there will be definitely some job loss associated with it because it always introduces new business models. However, also many new jobs are created as a result of new technologies, and I tend to be very positive about this. Okay, but let me start with the negative thing first, because this is something that you need to know about it, and then we can talk about the positive and why I think that the 4IR will create more jobs here in Oman than the job loss. These studies are here. You can look at them out up in the internet. So 47% of jobs in the US can be automated today with current technologies. Does it mean that they will be automated today? No, but they can be automated today as per this study. 45% of jobs in the manufacturing industry will be automated in the next 10 years. So when you hear these studies, I want you to think about the workers and the potential job loss as a result of automation again, just I mentioned before. 35% of jobs will be replaced by robots in the next 20 years. In the US alone, 5 million drivers at risk of losing their jobs because of autonomous cars, only in the US. According to McKinsey, 800 million global workers will lose their jobs by 2020. 800 million global workers across the globe. Now, losing the job does not mean that they will not have any jobs. As I mentioned, if we work and plan it from now, they can be reskilled to take other emerging jobs. So it doesn't mean that they will remain jobless. It means that they will lose their jobs because most probably their jobs will be replaced by machines and automation and AI, but new jobs will be emerging and they need to be reskilled to be able to address this. This is the World Economic Forum, the future of jobs. This is the last study, 2022. I think they produce this study every 2 years. I'm not sure. So I'm waiting for their new study, 2022. So in 2022, 67% of the tasks are done by human compared to 33% are done by machines. But they are expecting in 2025 the tasks that are done by human will reduce to 53%, and the tasks that are done by machines will increase to 47%. So almost 50-50. And beyond that, the expectation is that the tasks that will be done by machines will be more than the tasks that are done by human. So why I'm giving you all of these different studies, forget about the numbers, just to tell you where the direction, where the world is heading, regardless of the number, because the numbers could be different depending on the assumptions that are made. But the direction, the future, is very clear according to almost all studies that I have read, that there will be a job loss due to automation, new technologies, as I mentioned, and there will be new jobs that will be created. Now, the percentage, the nature of the jobs, these are different from one study to another, but there are some common commonalities and there are some common findings that we can use and build on. There is a study by McKinsey, again, in the Middle East, 6 countries in the Middle East, including Oman. They found in this study 45% of existing work activities can be automated today based on current technologies. These activities, the 45%, are associated with over 20 million jobs in the Middle East, with 366 billion US dollars in wages, in salaries. Now, what this means is, so every job has a number of activities. So it doesn't mean that 45% of all jobs. It means that 45% of existing work activities. So for example, I work in strategy. Let's say that in my job, for example, I have 100 activities. So maybe few of them can be automated. So that's what it means. 45% of existing work activities, not jobs, okay? I just want to distinguish this because this is very important. Some of the activities might be fully automated. In that sense, the whole job will be fully automated. Some of them partially. So my job in the strategy, for example, maybe 30% can be automated. I still hide my job, but 30% of my job, for example, this is just for the sake of our discussion, might be automated by AI and automation and all of this. So again, I want you just to distinguish between work activities and jobs, because I don't want to scare anybody. So these are the countries: Bahrain, Egypt, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, UAE. And then they compare this with other countries. This study is available also online, both in Arabic and English, if you're interested to look at it. It's a little bit old, 2018, 4 years old, but again, it gives us the direction where we are heading. So we don't have to count much on the number. I do believe that the numbers that are here are currently are much more because of the advancement in technology. I do believe that they are bigger than these numbers, but again, this is subject to debate. Okay, so in Oman, 41, the percentage is 41% of work activities in the industries that they've analyzed, in the job that they've analyzed, can be automated today, either fully or partially. Whether these activities will be automated or not, that's a different story. What they are saying that those activities, 41% of them, of the jobs, they have activities that can be automated. Okay, so 41% of the jobs in Oman, the jobs that they've analyzed, 41% of them, they have activities that can be automated, either fully or partially. If you look at the left side, the figure of the left side, okay, how many jobs in Oman that they have activities that can be automated? 800,000 jobs, according to the study. So 800,000 jobs. So the total in all the countries is almost 21 million jobs in all these 6 countries. In Oman, 800,000 jobs, according to McKinsey, do have activities that can be automated. Okay, not fully. It doesn't mean that those jobs will be fully automated. Again, some of them might be fully, but the majority are partially. They can be automated. And again, that's not a negative thing. We can talk about this later. The salaries of those jobs in Oman, the yearly salaries, 11.3 billion US dollars, 11.3 billion US dollars for the 800,000 jobs. I'm not sure now because I forgot either this is the yearly or the monthly. I'm not sure, but it's a big number of salaries. It's a huge number associated with 800,000 jobs in Oman that have activities that can be automated. Now, if you look at the industries that have the big potential of being automated, so the size of the circle is the size of the workers that are working in those industries. So don't worry much about the size of the circle, because obviously in Oman it's lower because we have less workers. In Egypt it's much more bigger. And the color, the more to the red, the higher the probability of automation. The more to the blue, the lower the probability of automation. So if you take manufacturing in Oman, I hope you can see it. I don't know if the pointer, let me just double check. I didn't try this one. Can you see my pointer? Can you see my pointer? Do you see the pointer? Mahfouda or anybody here? Hello? Anyone there? Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Can you see the pointer? Can you see the pointer?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you see the circle. This means that the probability or the jobs that they analyze in the manufacturing sector at a higher rate, or they have more activities that can be automated. 59, you see here, 58% of the work activities in the manufacturing sector can be automated. The good news for the college or for the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, the least sector, according to this study, that has activities that can be automated is the educational services, with only 29%, which is still not a small percentage. Almost third of the work activities in the education sector, or let me call it the educational services in Oman, can be automated. If you take, for example, the healthcare and social assistance, okay, it's 35%, and so on. This study also analyzed the potential of automation versus the degree, the degree that somebody holds, the education. And of course, as you could anticipate, the higher the degree, the lower the potential of being replaced by automation. So for graduate degrees in Oman, it's only 21% compared, for example, to high skills and less than high school. Why? Because those low skilled workers will be replaced by machines and automation. And why I am saying this might be a good sign in Oman, maybe not a good one in some countries where they have a large number of low skilled workers, because those low skilled jobs in Oman are being occupied by low skilled workers that are not non-Omanis. And now if we replace those jobs by machines, okay, and by automations, then we've hit two birds in one stone. One, we created new jobs in Oman because most of the Omani population is highly educated population. So we wouldn't expect them to work on low-skilled jobs because they are highly educated young population in Oman. So, and then we will be able to replace the low-skilled workers, which is a very big number here in Oman and in general in the Gulf countries, and are creating some social/security issues as well as transfer of massive amount of monies from within the economy to outside Oman. So we will hit two birds in one stone. That's why I'm saying that the fourth IR might be a positive thing to Oman and maybe the Gulf countries if we work and plan for it very well. I sounded a little bit negative in my previous slide because that's the nature of the 4IR, but also many new jobs will be created according to the World Economic Forum. 133 million new jobs will be created only by AI by 2022, mostly in the algorithms, the design of the algorithms, programming and coding. And I think that's a very great opportunity for us to address. This is also a study by the World Economic Forum 2022. So there will be a creation of 97 million new jobs and a loss of 85 million jobs. So the new job creation is higher than the job loss, which is a positive thing. What are the growing jobs in demand? According to the World Economic Forum and many other studies, this is only one study that I'm showing you here, is data analysts and scientists, AI and machine learning specialists, big data specialists, digital marketing and strategy, process automation, business development professionals, digital transformation specialists, information security analysts, software applications, and Internet of Things. You can see that most of the new jobs, at least the top ones, the top 10, in their study, they have more than 10, but you can look at the top 10. Most of them will be created in the ICT sector, in the information and communication sector, in the technology side, which is also something I think very good because Oman, by the way, the percentage of graduates in the ICT in Oman is the highest among the whole GCC region, almost 39%. This data is at least few years old, so I hope it's still valid. Almost 39%, almost 40% of the graduates are in the ICT. That's why I see this as a positive thing because most of the jobs will be created in the sector. What are the top skills? Why I do this? Because I know this is important for the college and for the university. The top skills of 2025, and there are many studies as well that are consistent with this: analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative. Sometimes it's difficult, especially when it comes to measuring innovation. I'm not sure why they put it as a skill, but it's there. Leadership and social influence, and I believe this is important. And I talk also about communication as well, communication skills, technology use, monitoring and control, and many other skills that are known. These are the skills that are required today and in the future. And I do believe that we need to adapt and enhance our education system to be able to graduate students and graduates with this skill set. So outcome-based education. Of course, we cannot talk about now 4IR without talking about the COVID-19. Why? Because COVID-19 will further accelerate the emergence of new technologies. The world after COVID-19 is totally different than pre-COVID-19. Organizations that will not adapt, will not change, will not digitally transform, will cease to exist in the future. And so I believe that COVID-19 will further accelerate the emergence and the start of the 4IR revolution, because it will accelerate a digital transformation as well as the adoption of new technologies. So this one is from the World Economic Forum, the planned business adoption. What are the organization planning to do in response to COVID-19? You see the first one with 84%, accelerate the digitization of work processes, provide more opportunities to work remotely. This is also very important. That's why, for me, I do believe that bringing the workers 100%, either in the government or companies or even students, I don't believe this is the future, to be honest with you. Perhaps a hybrid approach is what is the future. And we need to think about that. Accelerate automation of tasks, accelerate the digitization and upskilling of reskilling. So all of this, I'll leave it to you to read it later, and it's available online. All that I'm saying here, that COVID-19 will accelerate digital transformation and the adoption of 4IR, and it will fuel the transition to the 4IR, and that's why we have to be ready. So this is the estimated share of workers at risk of unemployment by sub-industry. This is as a result of COVID-19 mostly, but also of new technologies, accommodation and food services, wholesale and trade, retail traders, transportation, education, construction, mainly because of remote work, inability to do remote work. That's why I do believe that organizations in the future, in Oman and other countries as well, in fact, other countries are already doing this, need to adopt a hybrid approach between remote slash on-prem work, bringing the students and the workers 100%. It is a pre-COVID thing, which is something of the past. We need to be more open, more flexible, more agile about the future, because honestly, another pandemic is not out of the. It's not. It could. It's a possibility. We could have another, maybe even more devastating pandemic in the future. This is something beyond our control, and we need to be ready. We need to be resilient. We need to be flexible to that. The growth of e-commerce, again, people during the pandemic, especially the lockdown, discovered the convenience of e-commerce as well as online activities. And by the way, and the e-commerce during the pandemic actually doubled, tripled, and sometimes 5x's in some countries. Now, on average, like for example, if you take the United Kingdom, it's almost 24% of the total retail sales. It's e-commerce, and it went like 4.5x from 2019, the average between 2015 to 19 and 2020. E-commerce is growing very rapidly in the Gulf, by the way. So in the Gulf region, it's among the fastest in the whole world, almost 30% every year. But there is one issue with e-commerce in the Gulf, according to one study that I read. Almost 99% of e-commerce in the Gulf is import, not export. Export is only less than 1%. So Gulf countries, including Oman, need to work very hard to enhance our exports as well. So e-commerce is a good thing. We have an a national e-commerce strategy, by the way, which is, I think, currently the owner of the strategy is the Ministry of Commerce Industry. And but we need to work hard to increase our exports. Now, with e-commerce, new jobs will be created as well. You know, like distribution centers, logistics as well, transportation, and all of this. So there will be some indirect jobs created as a result of e-commerce. That's why I'm putting it here. Now, also this, I think this is the last, yeah, almost. I'm just finishing my seminar today. Now, in this study, they are also, this is from McKinsey. It's available online. This is the estimated change in the total employment, the shift from one sector to another. So the more to the black, there is a shift, a negative shift. So a decrease from one sector. So why? Because they are migrating to another sector because of new jobs. If it's to the blue, the more the blue, there is a moving towards that sector. Okay, towards that sector. Why I'm putting this here? If you look at the first sector, which is the health aids, technology, the techs and care workers, it's almost very blue. So which means that workers from other sectors, okay, from these sectors will be moving, transferring from this sector to these sectors here. So again, back to the technology and the ICT. That's why we need to really take care of the sector here in Oman, because most of the jobs will be created in the sector, and most of the economic boost will be enabled by the ICT, by the information and communication technologies. Now, for the workers that will remain in their jobs, they will not be replaced. 50% of all employees that will remain will need reskilling by 2025. So skill set and reskilling is extremely important to employees in order to be able to cope with the change of the 4IR. This is from only me. This is not a study. This is my own assumption. You might also disagree with this. What are the top skills that are demanded by employers? I thought this could be helpful for students. That's why I added it. This is me personally, when I do job interviews, and I have been through many organizations before. So this is my experience. You might disagree with it, but I'm just giving you my thoughts. What are the things that I look at when I try to hire employees at the organizations that I work with? Definitely, communication skills is extremely important. So the technical knowledge is important, but there are other soft element skills that are as important. In fact, in my opinion, they are even more important than the technical knowledge, because the technical knowledge you will learn at your job, either through on-the-job training or the certified training and all of this. But it's extremely difficult to work with employees and to build their soft skills if they don't come equipped with it. And that's why I hope that colleges, universities, and academic institutions here in Oman pay a lot of attention to those soft skills. It's not enough to graduate somebody with the technical knowledge. The technical knowledge is available today on Google, you know that? And now in the future, scientists are working on having a Google chip in your mind. There are some experiments with that. So basically, when you want to search for something, you search it from your mind and you get the results right away in your mind. So the technical knowledge, it's important. I'm not underestimating it, but also the soft skills like communication skills, teamwork, the ability to do some search analysis and provide insights, even on a topic that you may not be aware about it, and learn about it very quickly, because we work in a dynamic environment. Why I'm saying that organizations that are not resilient, that are not flexible, will cease to exist because of this. The technology is changing at a fast rate. There are so many situations and factors also besides technology that are affecting organizations, whether it's a government organization or especially companies as well. And you are as good and as flexible as your staff, as your employees. So you need to have the employees that have very good search analysis and provide with you insight, and they do comparison immediately. This is a very valuable skill that you search for, that you look for employees. Initiation and being proactive, so not to wait for your management to come and instruct you what to do, but being proactive and come up with ideas that will help boost the business. These are extremely important skills, and these are the skills what distinguish good employees from other ones. Self-learning, Again, because whatever you learn at school, school provides you the foundation, which is extremely important. So universities, colleges, they provide you the foundation. If you work in different, especially in the technology sector, you know that by the time if your specialization or your field is in the technology, for example, ICT in general, you know by the time that you graduated, a lot of what you've learned has already changed. Okay, and that's not a bad thing, because school, in my own opinion, and please, I'm not here to lecture you on how you do your educational technologies at all. Okay, you are the experts here, but in my opinion, education equips you mostly with the skill set more than the knowledge. Again, the knowledge, you can get it online today, it's available for free. There's a study, actually an interesting study that I read, a 2 hour study in Google, a 2 hour study, focus study in Google, is equivalent to a study in a school for 1 month. Okay, so the knowledge is, you can get it, but the skills that you learn at schools, it's what you're gonna make you distinguish at your work, and those mostly are the soft skills that you require to be able to cope not only with the work environment and the demand of your employers, but also with the rapidly changing environment, and flexibility, being able to flexible, being able even sometimes to shift your career. And as I mentioned, because of the changes that are happening as a result of 4IR, people will have to transform sometimes from one industry to another, and you need to have that kind of flexibility to be able to work and cope with the changes that are happening. I talked a lot about 4IR technologies. I just wanted to give you, and before I finish my seminar today, a very quick examples of some of those technologies. I am sure that you know all of them. Just these are examples, and I wish I had the time to talk about the applications, the real applications of those technologies. But I really hope that you go and search for them, and you will find so many practical applications that today maybe we as normal users may not be aware about them at all. So the technologies that, some of the technologies, not all of them, that will fuel the 4IR include big data, social digital media, there is Internet of Things and Internet of Everything, where everything will be connected to the internet and will be able to collect massive amount of data, and that data will give us a lot of insight that will enable us to make better business decisions. Autonomous vehicles, not necessarily cars, it could be planes. There are some experiments today with commercial planes like Airbus 350. This is, you can find it on YouTube, where even the takeoff and the landing is done by an AI, artificial intelligence, real experiments. 3D printing is a revolutionary technology that will change many sectors, and I believe this will also add a lot of benefit to Oman. Today, there are 3D printers that print homes. We already have a 3D printing office building or home at the German university premise here in Oman. 3D printing, especially 3D printing buildings, will enable Oman to create a lot of jobs for Omanis this is my belief at least, in the construction industries. Why? Because this in the construction industry here in Oman is dominated by low-skilled workers, and Omanis are highly educated, but they will be more than happy to work as 3D printing operators and engineers and all of this. So we will be able to add and adopt these technologies to those sectors that are normally dominated by low-skilled workers, replaced by machines, and introduce new jobs to the highly educated Omani young people. 3D printing is not only in buildings, it's in everywhere. Now they are already 3D printed medicine, 3D printed equipments, 3D printed parts, car parts. Porsche, if you go and search online, already signed a deal to 3D print some of the Porsche car parts. Some also airlines now are 3D printing some of the parts. 3D printed food. In the future, we will be able to 3D print our food. There are already today some 3D printers that 3D print some chocolate, for example. And in the future, we will be able to 3D print our food. So you will enjoy the international cuisine at your home. All what you need is the digital recipe, which you can get it online, or somebody sells it for you. Okay. And so it's an amazing technology. And 3D bioprinting, okay, where we will be able to 3D print organs, and that will be the future of organ transplants in the future. And I want you to read about it. Cloud computing, blockchain, also a revolutionary technology as well. Quantum computing, which are untraditional or unconventional computing. There is also DNA storage, storing the data on a DNA. There are a lot of experiments today. Scientists have managed to store data, digital data, in a biological DNA, like a movie, for example, an operating system, and they managed to retrieve it. Some companies already investing billions of dollars to create a DNA-based storage. Why? Because you can host or store massive amount of data in only grams of DNAs, and you can save it and protect it for thousands of years. It's even better than electronic data. And one study that I read, that you can host the whole of the world data in all, imagine the data centers across the whole globe. You can host all the data in the size of a small room. And some people say even in the size of a shoebox, okay? And you don't need that much electricity and a massive amount of utilities to run those data centers. So it's also a revolutionary technology. Virtual and augmented reality and the metaverse. I'm sure that you heard about the metaverse. Gene editing, and it's also revolutionary technology. And there have been some experiments, of course, on animals, successful experiments on animals for gene editing, as well as on humans. And also this raises a lot of ethical issues. But some futurists believe that in the future, we will have a gene editing kit at our home. So let's say, and I believe that is a true. It might happen in the future, to be honest. That's why I'm saying that we will be living in some sort of science fiction movies. So you will have a gene editing kit at your home. So let's say that tomorrow you don't like the color of your eyes, you want blue eyes, then you will be able to do it by editing your genes. I might sound very exaggerating the situation, but I think that might happen in the future. Clean energy, robotics, artificial intelligence. Some people now compare the invention or the advancements of AI to the discovery of fire and the discovery of electricity. And I do believe that AI will make one of the biggest impact that human history has ever seen, because AI applications today are everywhere. And we can talk more about it later. And implantable technologies. So not only wearable technologies like smartwatches, but implantable technologies within our body to boost our systems or for health reasons. So for example, scientists today are already experimenting with some sort of a chip. This is only one example. You can go and search for many others. This chip, they want to implant it within our brain to give us a very super storage capability. So we will have a videographic memory and we'll be able to memorize everything. And that will boost the memory of the humans. There are already some experiments of some tiny nano robots, okay, that you swallow, and those robots, the idea is they go and target, they call it targeted medicine or precision medicine. They go and deliver the medicine to the infected organs within our bodies. Some robots, they go and they target they cancer, they target the cancer tumors within our body with targeted medicine, or they cut the blood supply from those cancer cells to kill them. So there's a whole new world when it comes to wearable and implantable technologies as well as nanotechnologies. Digital currencies and cybersecurities are all technologies that are that will fuel the 4IR, and there are others as well. Sorry, I took a little bit longer than expected, and I open the floor now if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Let me just stop the sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Bedr. And now the floor is open for questions and answers. You may raise your hand if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please. Sorry, I didn't notice the
So
hand. Uh,
I've raised my hand. So
Hi.
if robots are going to like take over the jobs, right? Then what human will do? Like what kind of jobs will human be able to do and the robots won't take over it?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. This is, this question is raised almost every time somebody talks about the 4IR. At the beginning, I mentioned that the role of the humans will be mostly in the areas that require thinking, design, innovation, where the AI, at least initially in the short and medium term, will not be able to replace. So imagination, these are the skills and these are the job activities that will not be replaced immediately, at least immediately, by AI, that require human thinking, complex problem solving, the design, the supervision, the auditing, and as well as as I mentioned, the activities that require imagination, require design, originality. These are the activities that will be mainly done by human, at least initially. And the routine jobs, the repetitive jobs that require low skills will be replaced by AI. Now, that's also not a bad thing because why? And I also do believe in this because some experts today say that AI will enable us to become human again. And I do believe in that. Why? Because it will take the burden out of our shoulder when it comes to doing the routine tasks that are not our core tasks. So those will be done by AI, and we will have more time to think and come up with more innovative ideas, more time to do more productive work at our work, and we will have more time for our families. Why? Because with today's life requirement, we are so busy with our work, with our activities that are really non-core and they are repetitive activities. So if we offload those activities to machines and robots, we will have first more time, so we'll have more time with our families, and we will have more time to be more productive at our work. Sorry, I took so long to answer this one because I really wanted to emphasize the negative aspects out of those technologies, especially AI. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it answered. Yeah.
Thank you.
But also
Anybody
like
else?
I also have the question of Internet of Everything. Like Internet of Everything is basically connecting everything in home with the internet. How can we do
Yeah.
that and be confident that no one can like take advantage of this and no one can like break into the system and hack us and like spy on us? How can we be confident about that?
Yeah. This is also another important question because also one of the concerns, maybe I didn't mention in my presentation. Actually, I have another one. Only talks about the impact of the 4IR on the national security, including cybersecurity. Of course, with these technologies, they'll bring a lot of benefits. You name it, AI, IoT, Internet of Everything, 3D printing, but also they will uh, bring a lot of threats and a lot of issues, especially around cybersecurity as well as data privacy. And these are two big concerns that are also being addressed today. There are so many ways to address this one, of course, but I totally agree with you that the emergence of these technologies, the um, the impact of and the concerns when it comes to cybersecurity with these technologies, not only Internet of Everything, but even AI and 3D printing. So let's say take 3D printing. 3D printing, for example, buildings. So let's say somebody managed to hack a 3D printer and change the configuration to create a design or to build a home that does not meet the requirements, the regulatory requirements, and that home or that building collapsed in few months. So that's a possibility. The same thing with gene editing and all of this. So these technologies, they bring so many benefits, but also they come with so many concerns, especially around cybersecurity and data privacy, which needs to be really addressed. And I agree with you. And there are so many measures that can be taken to minimize We cannot prevent those risks or those issues, but there are so many measures that can be taken to minimize the risks of those elements. Any other question?
Yes,
Dr.
please. Salam
Shada?
alaikum. Yes, salam alaikum.
عليكم السلام. عليكم
Shukran.
السلام ورحمة الله.
Thank you, Doctor, for your this presentation, and really interesting, and even the references you show us and all statistics are so valid, and let's say we can use them in many ways. Currently here in the university, we are doing like a curriculum development, okay, in IT sector. Now, when we come to the specializations, yeah, and sometimes they say like, let's have a specialization more narrow to AI, for example, or data science. Or let's have something so broad, like, for example, to teach them programming and basic skills of IT. So what is your point of view? Are you in the favor of going, narrowing these specializations, or focusing on the main concept and principles? And it's just I would like to know your opinion in this one.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Shada. Dr. Shada. Thank you very much. Okay. I was asked this before, to be honest, and I do believe, and I might be wrong, of course, because currently I'm not an academic, so I might be, they might, disconnected from the academic world. To be honest, I'll just give you my professional opinion. I do believe that first we need to build the foundation. So my personal opinion, I am against, for example, cybersecurity bachelor degrees, unless the degree is more than 4 years. There are some fields, especially in architecture, the bachelor is like 6 years. So if the bachelor is going to be for 6 years, because if you want to be very good at AI or cybersecurity or some of these new specified or very specialized fields in technology, then you need to have the foundation in computer science first. Computer science, okay? Not
Yes,
IT,
that's right.
computer science. So, and to build that foundation, you can graduate somebody with cybersecurity with a bachelor degree, you can graduate somebody with AI, but I do believe that they need first to be an expert level, to be very good at their job. They need to have the foundation first. So but you can cover those subjects throughout the curriculum. So you can cover the AI, the graduation projects should be around these anyways, and they should work in organizations on the job training or on the job that they do in the summer. They should be in organizations that work on those fields. So you can cover, because those technologies are changing all the time. Yeah, so today we have an AI. Now even they call it augmented intelligence. Augmented intelligence. Why? Because it has a little bit more human, and it's less negative than artificial intelligence. But even the name is changing every time. So I do believe with building the foundation first, and then you can specialize in one of these, either in the master or, as I mentioned, maybe more than 4 years bachelor degree, or in your projects that you do throughout your curriculum. And on the job training. But graduating somebody with cybersecurity degree, to be honest, and I worked in cybersecurity for a long time, or in AI, I don't think you'll be able to develop those skills in an undergrad, 4-year undergrad program. And by the way, those who are good in all of these are very good in programming, especially programming, but you need to understand the foundation, of course, of operating systems, networks, and all of this. My opinion might be outdated, but that's what I believe.
No, it's okay, because it's similar, because we are listening from different industry point of view, and the foundation is important. One of the most of them agree about that they should be strong in programming, because all the rest, it's the foundation in programming. If you don't know how to program it, or at least to understand the program, then thank you very much for your input. Thank you.
And also this relates to my slide about the skills that I look for employees, which is the self-development, self-learning, as well as the search, analyze, and comparison. So let's say that somebody, for the sake of argument, who's very good at this but has not heard about AI, for example, they can very easily learn it, take online courses, develop their own skills in it if they have those kind of, because in the future we might have a totally new technology that they haven't learned in school, and this is happening every day. So even we at work today, a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much.
It's the job. Your learning does not stop at your school. You know, it's a continuous thing. You need to learn and educate yourself regularly. Another question?
It seems that there are no more questions. Okay,
There is. I saw
Juhaina.
one hand.
Yeah, Juhaina.
Yes, I have.
Please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Badr, thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting. I have just one question related. If we focus on Oman and Oman Vision 2040, do you think that this 4IR will help Oman to realize the indicators mentioned in the vision? What do you think about it? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Dawood. There are few slides also in my talk. I try to skip because they are linked together, and I thought it would take longer to talk about. But they are related to a measurement which is called readiness for future of production. And Oman in 20, and there are two elements they measure the readiness for the 4IR from production point of view: structure of production and driver of production. I don't want to go into the details of it, but Oman, the targets for 2040, we want to be among the top countries in these two big measurements, to be honest, and challenging measurements as well. And in 2030, among the top 20 in 2030, and top 10 in 2040, sorry. So the 4IR is mentioned in the Oman 40, not only in these two measures, because 4IR is about innovation, it's about technology, it's not just about those measurements. So it is embedded one way or another in the 2040. That's number one. Number two, yes, I totally agree with that. Not only this, to be honest, it will accelerate the achievement rate of those indicators. So adopting those technologies in the right way, with the right planning and the right resources and the right vision and direction and leadership, I think it will not only help us achieve the 2040 targets, it will accelerate achieving those targets and maybe super achieving those targets. Let me give you one example, AI. Again, I have other slides, again, because of the time. So for example, if you take AI, there is a study by Accenture. So they studied 12 advanced countries, and they found that if those, like the US, UK, German, Singapore, those countries, Italy, I think was one of them as well. So they found that if those economies were AI ready, what is mean by AI ready? So they compare their current economies and the economies if they adopt AI and they became AI ready, according to that study. They found that they will be able to double the growth rate. You know, those global economies are facing a challenge, which is the decreasing economic growth rate. So the average currently is around 1% compared to 3% in the 80s. So they have a diminishing economic growth every year. And they found that if they embed AI into their economies, it will not only double the growth rate, but accelerate the doubling of their economies. So if their economy, for example, takes 50 years to double in size, so let's say it's 1 trillion US dollar, to make it 2 trillion, it takes 50 years according to the current growth. The AI will accelerate it and will cut it into half. So it will take, if I say 50 years, then 25 years. So I do believe that adopting those new technologies in the right way, with the right plan, as I mentioned, with the right vision, then it will not only enable us to achieve our targets, but it will accelerate the achievement of those targets, and it will make us much more ready for the impact of the 4IR so that we can really benefit from it.
But as of now, do you think that we are in the right way? Did we already have started to achieve this target?
If you talk about 4IR, I think let me talk about Oman, but it was led by the government. They have done a lot of efforts, to be honest, to address this one through many initiatives. You know, digital transformation is one of the big foundation for the 4IR. The adoption of new technologies is also something that is being taken care of across many. Used to be ITA, then the Minister of Communication and IT, and now the Minister of Transport, Communication and IT, the Oman Investment Authority. So, for example, we at the Oman ICT Group, we are the investment arm of the Oman Investment Authority in the ICT sector. Our mandate today is to invest as much as we can into the 4IR technologies. So, from the governance side, there are a lot of efforts from the government. From the investment side, there are a lot of efforts, either from also the government, like Oman Investment Authority, or from the private sector. From the education side as well, there are a lot of efforts from the universities, like your university as well, and from the education sector, from the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation as well, because they are also in talks with us and they have many programs. I'm sure that you're aware about them. So there are a lot of efforts. I do believe the government is doing a great job, but we need to maximize those efforts, to be honest. So we need to work harder when it comes to looking at this sector, the ICT sector, or the technology as a general, because some technologies may not fall under the ICT sector. But I think we need to look at it and start thinking about it from that perspective. Should we consider it as an enabler sector, like education, health, for example, or should we look at it as a priority sector like tourism, logistics, which can help us diversify our economies in the future? That kind of discussion, I am sure it happened before, and I'm sure it's happening. I think we need to do it again in light of the 4IR. So there, again, to just summarize my answer, there are lots of efforts from the different entities here in Oman, whether it's government entities or private sector, but I still believe that we need to do more work to be ready, honestly, for the 4IR.
Yes, clear.
Can
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
I ask you the last question, please?
Sure.
Thank you for your very informative presentation. My question is kind of similar to the question asked by my colleague earlier, but it's maybe a little bit tailored towards education. I was thinking traditionally, you know, education systems across the world were the primary preparers for young people and to go for them to go to the workforce equipped with all the skills and competencies needed in order for them to cope with the, you know, working environment and to have the skills needed to achieve their potential. But however, there is an increasing disconnect between the content created by education systems and the content expected from industry, especially in today's rapidly evolving world. And you mentioned earlier that 50% of people or employees will need to reskill by 2025. And that is a big percentage. That means we all have to work on ourselves and improve our competencies and especially technical skills, you know, in order to achieve our KPIs and achieve our potentials as well. So this disalignment or misalignment between the world of education and the workforce hiring and the changes of skills required every, you know, year. Do we need a new education model based on your experience? Do you think we need a new education model that seeks to address these concerns, or by diversifying educational opportunities, or what can we do more different in order to achieve and maybe kind of close that gap between education and not necessarily ICT industry specifically, but generally speaking about industry and education's link?
Thank you, Juhaina. You hit the nail and you asked a very, very important question. In one of the talks, similar talk to this one that I gave, in one of the entities, I had a set of recommendations, and I told them if I was like 6 or 7 recommendations, and I told them if I was asked to prioritize those recommendations, then I would say priority 1 is education, 2 education, 3 education, 9 education, and then 10 everything else. So I totally agree with you. The preparation for the 4IR, and not only the 4IR, but for the changes that are coming to our economies, whether we like them or not. This is a wave that is, crossing the whole world, and we need to be ready for it. Starts and ends with proper education. I do believe, I am not an expert, although I worked in the academic before, but I am somehow disconnected, so I cannot be the judge of that. But I do believe that we need to, first, continuous improvement is not a bad or a negative thing. So any organization, whether in the education sector, in any other health sector, our case, the investment sector or the investment, field, they need to continuously improve their processes and their businesses to be able to survive, because the world is changing. The world is not the only thing that is constant is change. Change is that's a fact. And so I do believe that we need to continuously enhance our education systems. And I said that in also many times, that enhancing and improving, because to some government senior officials, some of them, of course, not all of them, enhancing and improving the education may indicate an increase of the cost of education, which is not the case. I do believe that enhancing the education might even lower the cost of education in the future, and not increase the cost if we do it right. I do believe that education should be outcome based on the skills, not the knowledge. And I know there is the accreditation systems, there are requirements that are there, but we need to adapt to them. So how I measure the graduates, by the skills that I talked about. Do they have those skills or not? That's how I measure them, not by the degrees that they have, because again, now the knowledge is available online. You can study online. This lecture or this seminar that I give to you today about 4IR, I am sure you will find so many better ones online. If you just search on YouTube, you will find so many better speakers, so many better with graphics that will explain the 4IR in a much more better way than I just did. So the knowledge is there available for free today, and we should graduate students with the skills of the 21st century. So it should be outcome based, and we need to, I'm not sure whether this is available there today in the education system in Oman or not, but this is how we should measure the graduates, not only by the credits and, you're completing this number of credits, and with these categories, elective, this number of credits, and the core, this number of credits, and completing some, some courses like the undergrad projects, for example, the graduation projects, and all of this. These are important because they build the foundation, but those are not enough. We should be able to measure, the skills, and higher education, research and innovation develop some sort of framework to measure those skills, and work with the universities from a policy point of view to make sure universities and colleges and academic institutions in general, to make sure that they graduate students with the 20, because that's how they will compete. Competition in the future will not be within our countries only. It will be, global. So if you want to work as a freelancer and offer your services, then you have to compete globally. So our education system needs to also compete globally, and we need to look at it a little bit in a different way. I might be wrong, you might disagree with that, but I think we need to look at it from a skill point of view, in addition to, of course, the credits and all of this, because you still need to be accredited to be recognized globally.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. And I believe that the topic was well explained, and therefore we'll end our interesting session for today. And join me to thank Dr. Badr Al-Mandri for an informative session on the fourth industrial revolution and the future of jobs. Thank you very much, Doctor, and stay safe and have a nice day.
I really hope that you know about this topic, but I really hope that you dig deep, because there are so many elements around it that, especially working in the education sector, you need to be worried about it and you embed it somehow in your education curriculum and projects. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best, inshallah. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Assalam.
Assalam.